What a privilege. Imagine you come into class every day, this is how you're greeted. Absolutely phenomenal. South African award-winning, international, global. The accolades are endless. And to have him on stage free, I think we can give him another round of applause.
This is a stream of consciousness.
and it's, like Skalk said, this is just consciousness happening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for the audience online. It is really a privilege to share this morning with you. I am not an artist. I phone Skalk and I say, I want to jam on stage, but I can't sing or dance or play a music instrument. So I'll just wing it. I'll just be. So I'm going to jam with my knowledge and talking this morning. We're really privileged to have faculty, guests, and also our PGDL alumni and participants and representatives of the program, my honored guest, and I will invite and introduce them shortly. This morning is a flow of conversation about the art of leadership development. We are a business school, so we are talking about leadership development. But we are going to talk about developing for what and for whom. And I'm also very excited that we have the future leaders. I might still teach you. I'm going to come with my kirk. But I'll be here all the way from Strand. Our future leaders are with us, and they promise to not ask me any difficult questions. Okay. And to our Stellenbosch Business School staff and the team that helped us put together, thank you so much. So I'm going to curate a conversation that is about the art of leadership and how do we develop leaders for innovation and impact. So the type of leaders that we need in the world today needs to have an impact. They need to have an impact in a moment of disruption. Okay. We are not developing leaders to deal with AI. AI is a disruptor, it's there. We're not teaching you AI. But so is climate change. And we do not present climatology as a subject, just by the way. But leaders have to deal with disruption because of global warming. We've just seen in the Cape Province recently, schools were closed. Did you guys go to school a couple of weeks ago when there was flooding? Yeah, they didn't even have school. There was flooding. And leaders, school leaders have to deal with that. But leaders also have to deal with disruption because of politics, and we also do not teach political science in class. But they have to deal with disruption because of geopolitics. Okay? So that's the world that leaders are navigating through, and there's no one answer to solve everything. And then we have to be context sensitive. So in Africa, in Southern Africa, we have the reality of the economic imperative. We cannot wait for the global north to come and invest and develop new businesses. We have to create opportunities. We have graduates walking around in South Africa with degrees and no job. A couple of years back, I had an MBA student, a qualified medical doctor. I did not think I would live long enough to see a doctor unemployed. My parents said, go become a doctor, a nurse, and you'll be okay. And I had a doctor doing an MBA because she was unemployed. She needed to think differently about how to create her own destiny. And in Africa and South Africa, we have the redress issue. Yes, we are 100 million years past apartheid, and we are 100 million years past colonization, but it is tangible, it is thick when you walk in the room. We are still dealing with issues of redress and inclusivity, and that is for all of us South Africans. So Prof. Stella Nkomo is one of my mentors, retired professor now, but just a phenomenal scholar in leadership development. As she was walking and educating future leaders, she said, what struck me in the research I did was the need for leaders in the new South Africa was interior work. They had to make the shifts in their own identities in addition to the changing identity of organizations and organization culture. So today we're going to share through a different process. We're going to share with you part of how we develop leadership. In our knowledge and our understanding of how to do leadership development, we also know that we have to move from developing leaders as individuals and developing for leadership. We also have to get away from this idea that we are developing superheroes. The problems we're facing today cannot be solved by one superpower. Okay? So this heroic model of a leader is going to flow in and save the day, we've seen. And COVID was one of our very recent disruptions. In fact, Donald Trump is a big disruptor right now. This idea of heroic leadership that both has sailed. So how do we develop not only individual strong leaders, but a group or team of leaders? We also know that leadership is about social construction is about the context. There is no one perfect leader in every situation. You enter into a context, and that context is devoured with politics and other challenges. And then lastly, leadership is a practice. It's not just who you are. It's not just a competency. It's what you do. And all of those elements are new in the scholarly thinking of how we develop leaders. So in our postgraduate diploma in leadership development, we believe that when these adults, when these individuals walk in, they already come as fully fledged leaders. They already have a set and grounded mental model. I do not presume that I can teach anyone everything. Oh, close your eyes. I cannot teach anyone anything. And I don't think I'm that amazing. What I can do is help you understand your own mental model, how you arrived in the room, and where your gaps are, and where you need to move. And then we facilitate that process. So what we really want to do in this classroom is not teach you about leadership, but help you unlock your mental model, your way of thinking. Because the way we think is what's going to come out, is what people are going to experience. And therefore, if we don't want to teach leaders and award certificates, but rather want to grow individuals that have a sustained behavior change, that can go out there and continuously do the things we've done in classroom, we have to do something different. And another key element of that is leadership does not happen in boxes, in blocks. We don't have modules and class sessions and write an assignment. Leadership development is a process. And we have a magic ingredient in the process facilitation. That as you're taking the content, as you're having the experience in the classroom, we hold that thread in the room, outside the room, back in the workplace, and back in class. And we hold that thread as you transition from understanding the content and the theory, but taking it back into your real world context and making meaning and sense of it. We also normalize the labor because behavior change is not easy. If it was easy, we would all be a size 6, we would be running the comrades, and we would not be eating and drinking bad stuff. Behavior change is not easy. Okay? And just because you signed up for a program and sit in a classroom is not going to change the type of leader you are. So it is a sustained, and it's difficult. That is why they call it growing pains, because it's painful to grow up. Okay. So we have to normalize that. We have to show them it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be confused. And we have to create that vulnerability and that disruption in the classroom. It's not all fun and games in the class. We make you extremely uncomfortable. And then we have to ritualize because it's a practice. So we are busy doing research on this program, and we're speaking with people that did this program 10 years ago, and they're still talking about the moments in the room. So today we're going to talk about the art of leadership development, and it is my great privilege. I've been wanting to be on the stage with Prof. Shirley Zinn forever. So I was sitting there where you guys are sitting. This was my professor. Okay. And she walked in at Tikkies in my BCom class or BCom honors classroom. And I looked at her, and yeah, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like her back in my day. And I thought, one day when I'm big, I want to be Shirley. Okay. Prof. Shirley Zinn. Prof. Shirley Zinn is no stranger. She is our girl. She's from Cape Town. She is award-winning. She's been schooled and studied. She's a Harvard alumni. She's held executive HR positions. Now she serves on boards. And she's written books, not only just her own biography of her own leadership journey, but also about leadership and what we need. So there was no better person for me that can come and position this conversation around what do we need out there in the real world in our leaders. Thank you, Prof. Shirley.
Into the 1-2 pieces. Okay, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. You've taken me way, way back there now. Truly an honor to be amongst all of you here. A warm welcome to all I see in the room as I look around and as you look around. Faces, please have a look at the faces beside you. They are very special. In this space we have alums who have weathered some corporate storms. We have students who are still sketching their dreams. We have learners here who have come to ask us some tough questions, I'm sure. We have business leaders. We have board members like myself here now. We're all worrying about the quarterly results. And we have community partners who are fighting for systemic change. And as Natasha was outlining, we live in a very, very complex world right now. So I want you to hold the image of the different people around you, because I think that is very, very important. We represent the cross-section of humanity as we sit here. And I'm just wondering, is there feedback?
Yeah, I think it's on Teams.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm going to continue. I just have a few minutes. I can't stop. And this cross-section of humanity that we are all representing here is very important, because this is exactly where leadership lives. Leadership does not live in a textbook. It does not live in a very smart corner office. Leadership is messy, it's beautiful, it's complicated, and it happens between all of us every day. Now, I've spent most of my life in a whole variety of positions, including all the way from education into HR and now into boards and as an academic. And as a human being, I've had incredible experience of terrible tragedy and devastation. In corporates, I've had huge disappointments and had to think about my role and my purpose many times, and had to get up when I fell down. And Stellenbosch Business School this morning has asked me to talk about the art of leadership, and maybe I need to start with a confession. Because no, when one thinks about leadership, one thinks about efficient people, getting things done, high performers, working until they're absolutely burnt out, and they get a tick in the box, and they get nice little bonus at the end, and somebody says thank you, but many years of your life have evaporated because your health is in such bad shape, your confidence is in such bad shape. And so the thing about leadership is that we want to give certainty, but we live in an incredibly uncertain world, and we want to project confidence. And somebody earlier was saying, do you still get nervous when you have to speak? And I said, absolutely yes. Even if I do this every day, there is still a bit of stress that has to happen so that you can really be prepared for the tough conversations and put the uncomfortable things down in the room. So it's not about unshakable confidence. It's about vulnerability as well. It's about learning from others while you're engaging with them. And it's not about not flinching and not having fear and not having anxiety, because that's all part of us being human and growing. So leadership, as we were saying, is not a training event. It is a very complex process. And today, this leaders angle session that we have, this platform is very important, and I want to encourage you to keep on doing this. But it's a platform for telling the truth. You cannot attend a 2-day workshop and emerge fully formed. You cannot tick a box and say, I've done it because I've been here. It is a constant day-to-day effort that we have to put into place. And I've sat in boardrooms with highly qualified executives, the most incredible qualifications, and some of them were the worst leaders that I've ever met. And then I've been to schools and poverty-ridden rural communities, watching young people with no formal qualifications lead with such profound courage and clarity that left me breathless. So what is the difference then? The difference is that true leadership is an inside-out revolution. It begins with identity. It begins with who you are really. And it begins with the question of us asking ourselves who we are. It's not about the title on the business card. It's not about the role that you play. It's not the persona that you're trying to project. It is about the person you are when no one is watching. Right? That is what leadership is about. And I grew up on the Cape Flats. It was lots of poverty, it still is. Plenty of challenges, socioeconomic challenges. It's far flung to the periphery of society, which is the way apartheid designed it to be. And there was very little hope and incredible despair. And there still is. But the context taught me something. And there were teachers that told me, Shirley, you have the potential to do much more than you are capable of imagining. You can do much more, bearing in mind that matric was my big goal, and I was in matric that year. So I'm incredibly grateful to educators who take the time, and I know that we have learners and a principal in the room, so I want to salute you today for bringing these young leaders and putting them amongst ourselves here and reminding us of where we all started and what this journey could potentially look like. So leadership is, real leadership that creates lasting impact, emerges when the path is difficult, when the ground is shifting, and when you have to make decisions on the fly without all the information often. It requires incredible courage, courage to be vulnerable, courage to admit when you're wrong, and courage to center others before yourself. The courage to ask for help when you don't know all the answers, and that's quite fine. We are now in Youth Month. We just celebrated Youth Day, and I think this talk here today carries particular urgency. We are foregrounding youth voices because the next generation is not waiting for permission. They are already leading. But here's what I want to say to the young people in the room. Do not confuse busyness and activity with impact. Do not confuse noise with influence. So it's not about how many ticks you get on your socials. It's about the real impact that you make, the lasting impact that you make on people's lives. And great leadership is not being the loudest voice. It's about being grounded in your values. I have been in organizations that have been incredibly toxic. Culture is toxic, the leadership behavior is terrible, and leadership in that particular instance gets rewarded for producing financial results while they step over hundreds of people in the process. And then one has to make the call. And it begins to look like you can't take pressure, but when your values are not aligned, we have to think twice about what our purpose is. What is it that we are doing here? And if you cannot lead effectively, if you cannot lead others effectively, you're also betraying yourself if you stay in a place where values are not aligned. And we have to sit with this unwillingness a willingness to own our discomfort and the courage to say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and I will not compromise on my values. So leadership is about our leadership practices. We have to reflect on what that actually means and how that shows up every day. It's a craft, and it's not a destiny that selects a chosen few. It's a discipline that requires everyday commitment, daily commitment. And when we talk about the art of leadership, we are acknowledging that it requires creativity, it requires intuition, it requires the ability to read the room, to hold the tension, and to navigate ambiguity. But it also requires technique. You can't paint a masterpiece without understanding color, composition, and form. So there are a few techniques, and I don't have the time to go into too many details here, but I'll share a few with you. The first is self-awareness. Understand your blind spots, your default patterns, what do you do when you're under pressure, what you do when you're having fun. Do you become authoritarian, or do you start to avoid certain things? Do you attack, or do you withdraw? And what are your character flaws? Because we all have a few. The second one is reflection. I'm a passionate advocate of continuous learning. Don't have to do multiple degrees necessarily, but I am at a business school, so I do want to encourage you to sign up. But learning is not just about absorbing new information and graduations. It's a space for process, to question, to integrate, and to reflect, and to meditate and have honest conversation with trusted mentors. The third thing about leadership is generosity. The best leaders I know are generous with their power. They mentor others. They create platforms. They share credit. And the fourth one is resilience. This is not being, resilience, often people think resilience is, I must be tough and I must be unemotional. But resilience is actually the capacity to experience difficulty and still to maintain your integrity. It's the ability to mourn your failure and still show up tomorrow. It's a stubborn refusal to let circumstances define your character. And so, what will you become? What are you becoming? Every day we make choices that shape our future person. When I look at the state of the world, the inequality, the climate crisis, the erosion of trust, and the deep divisions, I know that we cannot afford leaders who are merely competent. We need leaders who are conscious, who are compassionate, and who are committed to something larger than their own advancement. So I ask you, are you becoming more curious or more defensive? Are you becoming more generous or more guarded? Are you becoming more courageous or are you becoming more comfortable? And I want to close with a final reflection. Leaders' Angle exists because Stellenbosch Business School believes that meaningful conversations can change lives, it can change the world. I believe this too. These conversations are only the beginning. The real work happens when you leave this room today. When we take these insights and apply them in our boardrooms, our classrooms, our communities, and our home. And you are a leader, whether you have a title or not, whether you are 22 or 62, or whether you're in a corporate skyscraper or in a community care center. Leadership is not about position, it is about purpose. And I today am filled with hope when I see the youth in this room and that we are willing to navigate these difficult questions. I want to stop very soon because I think just on one or two notes, our potential is important. The promise of what we are capable of doing is important, but good intentions are not enough. Leadership is the art of turning potential into impact. So we must understand our impact, to lead from the inside out, and to embrace complexity and to find courage. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your willingness to have these awkward and difficult conversations. I want to wish you joy, love, success, and thoughtfulness as you navigate through the rest of this day. Thank you so much.
So much. I'm so happy Shirley mentioned Youth Day because I almost forgot we're in Youth Month. And this was centered around celebrating the youth. But there are two things I want to reflect on about youth. Sometime last week I was in Nairobi and we were navigating a conversation and we titled it Generation Possible. And we thought we were going to talk about the Kenyan youth that were toying and fighting against the government, etc. And the conversation actually evolved and molded into Generation Possible, that all generations matter. Yes, that's the future, but whatever we do determine what their future will be. And doesn't matter what age we are, whether we sit on the stage, whether we're there, and whether we're behind, whether we're in front, all of us matter. And the second thing I want to highlight, and I think it's particularly important for South Africa, we have an amazing Bill of Rights, a democracy in South Africa. Because one of the things the youth always goes on about their rights. They have a right to this. And one of our founding partners, a professor that was in this program long before I thought about this program, Prof. Mias, wrote a beautiful piece on, with all our rights, there's responsibilities, okay, as well. So I want to open the floor, also online. If there's anyone that have a question, we might have time for one or two questions to Prof. Shirley.
Please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for an insightful talk. I have a question. I noticed you are educational expert, and my question is, I'm asking it as a parent, because every day I'm engaging with my children. One is at university and one is still at high school. What type of leadership do you think we need in our schooling systems? Because it feels, as a parent, I think parents should start disrupting the education system, because the way learning is done is maybe 50 years old. So we need sort of innovation to create a learning impact in our current school system. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to just quickly try to answer that. Thank you for that question. I think that is an absolutely crucial question, and I know we have learners here just behind you, sir, and we have a principal in the room. And I spent many of my early years of my career as a teacher myself, and then I lectured in teacher education at the University of the Western Cape for about 10 years. And you know, what are we teaching teachers? How are we teaching principals to lead schools? And here we have a principal who has brought his 4 students. How many principals do that? How many parents ask a question that you are asking about how do we disrupt education so that it is fit for purpose, and we are developing leaders of the future in a responsive and relevant way to the current context. If you look at the world around us and the kind of leaders that currently play on the geopolitical stage, many of us can't even look anymore. We can't bear to look at the news. It's just too devastating to look at. And how do we turn that tide? And I think way back to my very first lessons, and I think this is where early childhood is also very important, and that is so wonderful that we can have younger people in the room here with us today as well, where parents sat down and said, you know, you're in a difficult predicament here. We live where we live. We don't have too much. But you can make something of nothing. You can make the impossible possible. And in the end, I said to my dad, what is it that you're saying? And he said, just please get you to your matric, because education will be your liberation. And so I took that quite literally. So, and then I had teachers in matric that said, you have the potential to do more. And these learners here, I'm sure, are getting that same kind of guidance. If we can create that curiosity to learn, if we can create that, a passion for discovering new things and innovating in different ways. And you're right, the school system probably was fit for purpose 50 years ago or 100 years ago. But there's so many other disruptors that have come into the field. How do we ensure that we are not only just building a workforce for the future in terms of supply and demand, and the point about graduate unemployment has been mentioned, but the point about youth unemployment being over 60% is also unacceptable. And I think it's really up to us as a collective and as a society to say what opportunities are we creating for our youth, and how do we change this education system so that our children can truly learn and thrive and become the kind of leaders that will make this world a better place and truly create a better life for all. And sometimes, as someone said, when the seas are rough, the sailors are so much better, because the leaders step up in times of turbulence, in times of chaos like we're currently living in. So the seeds are there. We need to nurture it, and nurturing is very important. Often nurturing is underestimated as a weak thing that has to be done, but nurturing really is a superpower if you think about it, in order to ensure that we harvest from those seeds that we planted in the very early lives of our children. But you are right, something quite revolutionary needs to happen to change the way we are educating our children, and not to celebrate mediocrity, but to provide quality, excellent education for all, I think is what we need to work on. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's on.
Good morning, all. what you said earlier on about Bill of Rights and around the youth in the country and internationally so, what we lack, and that's something I'm going to be embarking on soon, the work readiness skills. There's a big shortage of such, because most learners today, university graduates, are not prepared for the work environment because they have this self-entitlement mentality that their rights are far better off than you, a career person in your work environment, and they don't have the respect to fellow colleagues. Because I've been in an environment where current graduates don't call you by Mr. They want to call you by your name. So that respect is gone. Number two, they expect to be told what to do. Unlike in our era where we used to take initiative so that you can be seen and recognized. 80% of them are sitting on cell phones if they don't have any task to do. And therefore, it is encouraging that the principal has brought learners here so that they can actually experience what any professional out there gets through in life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the very insightful comment and conversations. I do want to say one thing. First of all, I study, I do work, I consult, and I do research on the world of work. So one thing close to my heart is I think we have to get over the idea that we're preparing the future workforce. We should be preparing entrepreneurs, innovators, because that's also what's happening in Africa. None of those youths ask for a job. They have an idea, they innovate, they entrepreneurs, they're looking for funders, not employers. So it's a mindset shift of the other generation. And then also yes, I agree 100%. On Friday evening in Dar es Salaam, at 8 o'clock, my husband sent me a WhatsApp and I'm like, I'm still working. 8 in the evening in Dar es Salaam, we have an event like that, packed audience. I'm not sure how many people in South Africa would be at a business school event on a Friday night. And what was so encouraging for me was the youth that were in the room. But what really hit me close was there was three guys at my table, and they're not young people. They've got masters and honors, so they're coming to find out about the MBA. And he writes me a little note. This is a grown-ass young man. Write me a little note. Dear ma'am, please excuse me, I really have to go to another appointment. It touches me because, as you say, one of the things we're losing in our youth is just common decent behavior and respect. So to have somebody that caliber saying, please excuse me, it just touched my heart. So we are all equally, all the generations are responsible for our humanity. But I do want to, because it's a packed program, I'm sure you have many questions. Please stay behind. We're going to continue talking. But I want to call on Samantha.
Sorry, there's just a question online. Can we take the one online?
I'm just really worried about time. Let's hold that question for if we have time later. So I do want to call on Samantha Dedricks as part of our postgrad diploma. She's our process leader, process facilitator, to just thank Prof. Shirley.
Oh, thank you. Prof. Shirley, thank you for your time this morning.
So much.
And for sharing your knowledge and expertise. And it was very insightful. And then also for the honesty that you dealt with it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So we're going to, I'm jamming here. I should have brought my tambourine. We're going to flow into the next conversation. And this is a conversation I'm going to have with Skalk Hubert, the creative leader, the musician, and also the postgraduate diploma in leadership development top student for 2025. Now, what really got to me, as you see, I'm an undercover artist. I love music, I love dancing, but I was just not blessed with any creative bones. Okay. And very early on, tip for you young people, early on somebody told me, do not develop your weaknesses. If you're weak at something, improvise. Okay? Phone a friend. Develop what you are good at, the gift that is planted in you. So I have no creativity in me, so I just surrounded myself with creative people. But really what knocked me at the end of last year when Samantha brought the list and she said, did you see who our top student is? And I remember Skalk in block 1 saying, what am I doing here? I'm an artist. This is a business school. Okay? And it was really special for me that the business school top leader did not come from your traditional corporate type environment. So then I just had to curate something around that. So here's what I did. My navigator has just left, so my slides are stuck. Trek die knoppie, Doris. There we go. So Skalk is a creative. Skalk is a creative, but he is a leader through and through. I mean, the things he's achieved in his life, okay, as a silent, quiet, he's actually an introvert. Sam keeps reminding me about that, okay. But he's also an entrepreneur. So leadership is not one title. There's different ways to be a leader. He's also an educator and a collaborator. He's worked with Hugh Masekela. Now, maybe you young people haven't heard about Hugh Masekela. It's a big name, okay. It's almost like Pitbull. Almost, yeah. And then, as I said, he was our top student. So here's what I did. I took a bit of creative license, of course, with Skalk's permission. So part of our program is we have 5 block weeks on campus. And at the end of each block week, one of the assignment is what we call learning logs, where students have to reflect on and write about what they've learned in that week and how do they translate it in their own leader identity development, and how does that link back to their leadership roles. So with Skalk's permission, I took his assignments and I did a thematic analysis, and these are the things that stood out. So this is the conversation we're going to have with Skalk, is that leadership is identity work. You have to learn how to lead through complexities. You're not going to get the answers. A theory is not the recipe. And you have to think beyond yourself. You have to lead for impact. Okay. So Skalk, as you figured out, is also an incredibly creative person. So when we sit in the class and we think we're lecturing and teaching, he's sitting there scribbling. So this is literally some of the drawings he would do either in classroom or post the sessions as he's reflecting. And he reflected on his leadership journey as an inside-out journey, okay? That we think we know who we are. We think what we see in the mirror is what other people see, but that's not true, okay? Leadership is identity work. In other words, you have to unpack your mindset, your way of thinking, because that informs how you behave. There's also a tightrope of trust, a tendency for him to one of the things Skalk said was, and you could see, man, he's a presence. He's big. He's a beautiful man. Okay. And it comes with benefits. There was a time, in leadership, we have a theory called the great man theory. It was a thing. So if you look like that, you're just a leader. Sommer, people just listen to you. Okay. We're not there anymore. You can look like this as well. They'll still listen to you. But there was a time. And Skalk was even aware of how his presence might actually hold things back. You know, people might have challenges navigate. So I want to start the conversation and say, Skalk, what had to change inside you before anything changed around you?
Hello. Well, thank you for that amazing introduction, Natasha. Thank you. You're very right that when I arrived here in the beginning of last year, I was a fish out of water. I looked around and thought, what am I doing here? But it was a conscious choice for me to come and put myself in a situation where I was initially going to do a further master's in music. And as I was applying, I thought, what am I doing? this is what I probably know most of. What do I know least of? And I went onto the business school program and I looked through that and I thought, this looks what I need to do. And it was basically on a whim. And I ended here and I felt, what am I doing? I had big imposter syndrome. But what had to change is, it's that thing of like, when my daughter, when she's 10 years old and she saw a video of herself talking, she says, I don't talk like that. You know, we all do that when we see ourselves. We don't know ourselves. And it's not just that we don't know ourselves, we don't see what cards we are actually holding. And sometimes you need some sort of a reflective mirror for that. I remember when I was already in my 20s, I started taking master classes with this incredible musician, Carlo Mombelli, and the first introduction I had with him, he said, play me something. And I played something. And he said, oh, okay, let's work on that. I said, but I already know that. He says, yes, but only you can do that. So we're going to develop that in you. And that was the first thing that I think that unfolded here. When I realized that the same principles, if you are a drummer in a jazz band, or whether you're the CEO of Pepcore, if you want to unlock value in people, and if you want to have the best in a situation, those principles are universal. And I very quickly realized that I have to, whatever knowledge I'm going to learn here, I have to apply to what do I actually have. Not just that it's this forever out there thing that one keeps on searching, one keeps on getting new knowledge. But knowledge is only useful when you reflect on it and you can apply. And that's when it turned for me and I thought, this is who I am. Nothing's going to change now. All the assignments that we had to do had about our companies and the structures, I had none of that. But I realized I work with people, there's people above me, there's people underneath me. I can apply this to my life. And it really became fantastic in that sense. And then I realized I hold that value. And I have got these cards and I can optimize these cards, even though it's in an informal structure, it can apply the same as in a big business. And what it's like Miles Davis said it, he said, you know, all theory and no soul is very boring in music, but all soul and no theory can be very embarrassing, you know. And what is so great is the sort of wireframe that this course provides and the universal application of it. That no matter what you are, whether you're a jazz drummer or CEO, when you start looking through these lenses and these filters and you can apply that to your life, it becomes meaningful to you. And that shift had to happen in me, that I have to get to know myself, I have to get myself out of the way, because there were many things that was shown to me in the beginning via the theory and via the studies we had to do that, okay, I am actually in my own way here to the next step of success. Because in leadership, the word lead is crucial. We can't step away from that. And what that means is just making that one next step, taking the initiative to make that step to the next better thing, whatever that next better thing is. It doesn't always have to be very big, it can be a small block. And that had to click for me. And it happened very quickly in the beginning. I remember Shanae Swat gave us these exercises. She said, explain to you in a group of random people that you don't know, tell them about one or two examples of when you showed great leadership in your life where you were very proud of. And it was such a daunting thing. I thought, when have I ever done that? You know, and I never think about that. You know, you never sit and take stock on your life. And then once it started, I got some ideas and I thought, this is so insipid. But I'll tell it to these people. And they were, wow, okay, that's so different from our lives. And then you realize, but there's value. There's value no matter who you are. And only you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Skalk. So it's really about know who you are. When you're showing up, you're already fully formed individual with very clear mindset and ideas about the world. You've learned a lot of things. We're not there to undo that. We are there to figure out where your leader identity lies. And then the next conversation really came through around leading in complexity, because leadership, there is no model. The difference between managing and leading is managing, you kind of have the answers, you just have to get people to follow the process. When the process derails, when things go wrong, when the disruption, when the seas are heavy, that's when the leader steps in. So in this program, we do not have unestablished. We do not have junior students. We have students that have master's degrees, they have PhDs, they are very well established in their managerial roles, but they need to learn, find themselves as leader and to learn how to lead in disruption. So key conversations or things that came out of Skalk's work was how to deal with, because being a musician, man, I mean, everything always goes wrong. The sound system, I mean, you saw it this morning. We practiced yesterday, we practiced, and then as you came in, the sound didn't work. Okay? So there's always disruption. There's decisions you have to make when you don't even have all the answers, when you can't see in the future. You can do Doris's futures thinking program, but it's not a magic bullet. It doesn't give you a crystal ball. And you have to learn to live with the outcome. The outcome's not always going to be perfect, but you work with that. So Skalk, I want to talk to you about the art of the ensemble, leadership as followership. What does it mean to you to lead from behind?
Yeah, we have a saying, as a bass player, you say, follow me, I'm right behind you, you know? And music is a great teacher in that sense, because especially the kind of career that I'm in so many different positions. You know, sometimes you're the leader of an ensemble, sometimes... Hello.
Can the online people remember to mute themselves?
So you never set structure or hierarchy, you know, and the better musicians are, the better they are as a musician, I can guarantee you the better they are as a listener. And it comes from, yeah, I can actually show you something quickly. Like,
Let's hold this.
okay, so I'm gonna demonstrate something how one note, and being a bass player, who notices the bass first? Nobody, you know. I'll show you a demonstration of how one note can change the whole world, and hopefully I'm getting this right. You can hold this for me. Let's start with something like, okay, I'll play something that you all know, In the Jungle. I'll listen. Okay, that goes on there. So there's your structure. It's happily swimming, going along. I'll even put a little melody onto it. Let's add the melody. Okay, we all know that. It's happily going according to plan. So when I'm putting the bass note down, it's only then, it's when it's actually the chord that it's supposed to be. So this is supposed to be it. And we're all in a happy jungle, you know. Now, without changing anything else, I can put us in a sad jungle. That's still doing the same thing, but the power of the one note changes the whole environment, and we're back in the happy jungle. Okay, you get the idea. So it's the power and the ability of that one note that is the right ingredient to make the whole ensemble gel. And that can sometimes be the quiet, unnoticed, lowest one in the hierarchy like that, not the one that speaks loudest, like Natasha said, that makes the greatest impact.
I'm really worried I'm going to be out of a job soon. Yeah. Man, I think we need to start bass guitar lessons as a module on the program. I couldn't have illustrated it any better. You got it. You got that, right? Okay. We don't have to call Sam to, yeah, you got it. You just got it. Man. And then you make impact, Skalk. I mean, you not just play bass and off you go. You put shows together, you do funding, you raise the next generation of musos and directors. So you have to strategize. You have to arrange. I pretend to be creative, so I call this not an agenda. I said I curate the moment, the event. You have to hold ethics at the core of what you do. Sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for me as a musician as well as a creative artist, if you want to make a statement in South Africa, it was a difficult journey at some point. When I was young, I remember I had these two worlds that I was living in, and when you want to express yourself, I thought, well, on the one hand, I feel like this sort of an orphan of Europe, and on the other hand, I'm an adopted child of Africa, and somewhere in between lies my identity. But again, you have to accept I'm fully South African. And this is in me. This is in the music that I create. It's in the environment, and I'm embracing that. And if you want to, I think Good News Carrigan said it, and it was a great statement. If you want to be an effective leader in Africa, you got to love Africa, you know. And for me, there's a lot of things that I do love about Africa. Afrikaans is my first language. It's something that's out of the 3,000 languages in this country. It's the only language that contains the word Africa, you know. And that bears a responsibility to it's a world language, and bears a responsibility to create a positive image and a positive contribution to the world, carrying that.
Yeah. And Afrikaans is a proudly South African language. It is not some Dutch little tag along. It is proudly South African. It's the slaves that were brought here, that brought their Malay influence. It created words like blatjang. It is the North Africans that came in. This melting pot of who we are in South Africa created Afrikaans. So it is a proudly South African.
The first Afrikaans was written in Arabic symbols. Really? First written Afrikaans. You can find it online. It comes from the Cape.
Amazing. And then Stuart should be on this stage. So Skulk, you do these amazing, you see, I think I'm doing a session on organizational change management, and then Skulk takes out of that about grief, and that grief is not the opposite of forward movement. Like, oh, was that what I was teaching? So I want to ask you, Skulk, you also spoke about the conditions of transformation. And transformation in South Africa is not somebody's job, it's all of us, all the generations' job. So I want to ask you, what does responsible leadership mean to you?
Well, there's a slight bit of tautology in that for me, because leadership, as I understand, and if there's a short answer, I'd love you to give it to me. But leadership is responsibility. It's not a role. And again, it's just that ability to be able to do the one little step to the next betterness. Now, whatever that is will differ on situations. And sometimes that is to not do something, you know, to not give funding to something that you don't believe in a cause, or not to enable somebody to do something that you think is ultimately destructive. It's not being somebody who can often be a people pleaser. My first reaction would be like, oh, I should do this to make that person feel better. But that is not always responsible leadership. It's that ability to cast a wider net on what the future results will be. And I think everything is a chain reaction, that butterfly effect. And we don't always have to understand the grand, big outcome. I think very few of us have got that ability. But we all have the ability to kickstart the next movement and the next movement, and hopefully spread that social memes that, you know, that's a world that we want to live in. So I often bring that back to myself, like, what sort of a place would I want to be? You know, simple choices. Why don't I throw a piece of paper out of my car? You know, because I don't want to live in a world like that, and hopefully that spreads the memes that everybody else does that. Or when I'm, you know, just how I interact with people, hopefully that doesn't give me an immediate reward, but hopefully that person remembers it and starts interacting with another person on the same level. And that's as far as I can actually answer that, because, you know, I don't have any delusions of grandeur that I can ultimately change the world. I can just make this environment around me a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's good enough for us. It's Stellenbosch Business School. we nurture and grow responsible leaders, and they're sitting amongst us. So I do want to make the circle bigger now in our op die stoep moment here. I'm going to invite, I just want to check, is Jana online? Yes, okay. So we have our youth representative, so one of our under 35 PGDL alumni is joining us in the conversation. So can we just get Jana's portfolio up? And I have also invited Ruby Gelderblom to please join us on the stage. So we do partner. We believe business schools has the mechanism, the relationships, and the platforms to bring all the right voices in the room. So City of Cape Town is an important partner for us because we elected them. We hold them responsible for building the type of city we all want to be proud of. So Ruby Gelderblom is a senior executive at the city and has vast experience in the public service. And I've listened to Ruby, I've shared platforms with her, and her passion for innovation and for development in the context. So welcome, Ruby, to the conversation. And then I've also invited Jana as our youth or a young person representative, but Jana is also not in your traditional corporate business environment, but she's a mover and a shaker. And Jana brought her business into the classroom, so she was forever taking little tests on us and putting patches on us and monitoring all kinds of things. So she brought that leadership into the classroom as well. She's the foundation manager at the Noakes Foundation. And if you follow her socials, they do a lot to try and transform and lead to behavior change of nutrition and health awareness and just thinking about how we live. Jana, are you online?
Yes, Natasha, I'm here.
Beautiful. We at the moment just can't see you, but we'll lean into your voice. So I'm going to start with Ruby. And sorry, let me just get to my questions again. So Ruby, the question I want to pose to you is, what does it mean to lead for citizens rather than customers? And what does innovation look like when the beneficiary is the community?
Thank you, Natasha, and good morning to everyone. And it's a real privilege being here and to be part of such an exciting topic. I think we need to start with by understanding, sorry for my throat, the context of the organization of the City of Cape Town. We've got over 5 million stakeholders, competing interests. We have got political cycles. We have quite a dynamic environment, and we often lead in disruption, and the pressure is quite high. Now, when I talk about competing interests, remember, if you talk about 5 million citizens, you need to understand what do we need to actually deliver on. Now, if you unpack the difference between that, what a citizen is and what your customer is your transactional individual. If you talk about a customer, if you are a Vodacom customer, you have a contract, you are there for the efficiency of the service, the speed, and basically what you get in return in terms of your value for your money. If you are a citizen, you're more into a relational construct. You are there in it for the long haul. You're there in it for the outcome, not just for the, let's say, for the output. And as a citizen, you have a stake in the long-term sustainability of the city. Now, if you then now have to actually think about the City of Cape Town, the city has got a 50-year long-term plan. And in a 50-year long-term plan, you think about how do you address the needs of your citizen. And again, if we unpack the citizen, is the one that's got the long-term consequential stewardship of the outcome that you want to achieve, all right? And I don't want to go into what our strategic vision is and the mandate all of that, because that is well known. That is why we have the term of the City of Hope and what that all enables. Now, if we want to talk about what does it actually mean to lead for that citizen, it's about the public value. If you're a customer, you think about I'm happy, I need this, I need that. My water is not running. My water, let's just say, pipe is bursting. My electricity meter is not working. But if you are a citizen, you have to ask, all right, what would be the electricity generation or distribution for this community within this area for the next 50 years? And you participate and you comment on that aspect when it comes to that service delivery need. So it's about public value creation if you talk about citizens. It's about delivering on the social and the economic impact. And it's also about equity and inclusion. If you're a citizen, it's about equity for all. We talk about the we. And then most importantly, the improved quality of life for the citizen in that community. So when you look into exactly, if you have to unpack that and ask yourself, so how do we deliver this? What do you as a leader have to ask yourself? What question do you have to pose to your team when your mandate and your goal is to deliver service for a citizen as opposed to a customer? And they've got quite useful questions that I found in the research. So instead of asking how do we make our customers happier, we should ask how do we improve the lives of all citizens, including those whose voices we do not hear. If you are a customer, you will ask how do we increase the demand for our service? But as a citizen, you should ask what creates the greatest public benefit for all while using our resources responsibly. And if you're a customer, when you ask the question, how do we maximize efficiency, we should rather ask as a citizen, how do we balance efficiency, fairness, sustainability, and accountability? Now, if we have to talk about how do we operationalize this shift, a lot can be said, how do we actually do this in practice? Because you can ask the questions, but the question is still how do you do this in practice? So if I have to talk to our young leaders, you usually see these adverts in the press about, we want to hear your voice, deliver comment on this, deliver comment, be it the bylaw, be it the policy, be it a new plan. There's a whole range of things that we advertise. And the one thing that you should understand if you are a citizen versus a customer will ask, okay, this is what the advert is saying. They want to comment on the road being built here, or they want to comment on this new bylaw or policy. You shouldn't think about what's a quick win here. There is no quick win if you have to think as a citizen. Because as a citizen, you should rather think about sustainable and established bodies that will keep on questioning and monitoring that outcome over time. When I take it back, when I said to you that we also deliver a service in a political environment, political environments is 5-year terms. A customer will think in a 5-year term and in that quick win. A citizen will think longer term. So when you construct and when you say, listen, we want to comment on a particular piece of legislation, a citizen will think about, let's establish a body that will comment now, but will do another follow-up inquiry in 2 years' time, and another follow-up inquiry in terms of progress in 3 years' time, and another session in 6 years' time about how the implementation is going. So you start developing an intergenerational stewardship of what your organization or your government or your city can deliver for you. So you're in it for the long haul. If you are, for example, and I keep on having to do this comparison, because a customer, if you are a client, be it a bank, well, let's just go back to Vodacom, or whichever company it is, don't have anything against Vodacom, though their prices are more expensive for their contracts. But if you're not happy with the relationship as a customer, you exit that relationship. You cancel the contract. You switch your banks. You close your account. You exit. You're a customer. If you are citizens, you do not do that. You're in it for the long haul. You end up co-creating that public rail, be it that comment that you provide, for that road, for that pipeline, for that park that needs to be developed, for the housing estate that needs to be developed. You comment, but you're in it for the long haul. You will then to make sure that you cannot just exit that relationship. If you comment and you co-create that outcome, you also then become accountable together with, let us say, the city of that outcome, whether you in the end like it or not. And if you do find, listen, this is not working, then you together with the city partner and redesign or recreate or change or improve whatever that outcome is. So you don't easily exit that relationship. You can see that in the nature people behave on a daily basis. You will find, if you're a citizen, you love your public realm. You care for it. You will pick up the paper in a public space as a citizen because it's your space. You own that. Customers don't do that. They just passes by drive-throughs, if I can put it that way. So what we as citizens look for is dignity. It's fairness, and it's trust, and it's that shared fate of that outcome. That is what citizens do. So what do? We should, I believe, as a city, we should go to that point of, it's not just about building and measuring and ticking that box of output. What I mean by that is, it's not just about counting. We have installed X amount of taps, tick the box, you've met your target. That was, I think Shirley mentioned it earlier in her comment. It's not about just ticking the box, I've delivered and constructed X kilometers of road for this financial year, tick the box. It's not about I have spent my budget according to the municipal asset transfer regulations and the performance measurements of 90% plus. It's not about just that. It's more about listening, understand what's co-invested, and now we have actually delivered on the outcome, meaning, is a community safer? Will you, as a single parent, have a clear way of, or uninterrupted way to work? Do you have, let's just say, a mobility route that can take you safely to the creche before you need to get onto the taxi to your place of work? In other words, the long haul outcome, you see it as sustainable as citizen, you measure it as sustainable, and you experience it as sustainable because it becomes yours. You are part of the outcome. If I have to just put it, I'm almost done very quickly. If you're a private sector individual, and I'm thinking now again about a customer, you would think about, listen, what's my return on my investment? What was my tenancy profile? We tick the boxes because you've actually met those targets in terms of your financial statements. We have to ask as leaders, when you start managing and leading for citizens, is rather a matter of how do we improve their lives? Are people more trustworthy of the city? Do people, let's just say, pay your taxes with pleasure? I'll end there for now. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you so much. So for our students, you've learned there's a difference between outcome, output, or output, outcome, and impact. Important thing to remember. So thank you so much, Ruby. As you can hear, Ruby's not well, but she made the effort to be here. Yana is feeling better, but she's contagious, so we didn't want her on the premise. But thank you so much, Yana, for showing up. Okay. I just want to bring Yana. So we've heard about what it means to lead in a creative space. We've learned what it's like to lead in a bigger accountability space and social impact and governance space. So the small business, the Noakes Foundation, and they've been around for a long time and they're very successful. But Yana, what does leadership look like when you have no or maybe even limited institutional scaffolding, when the stakes are immediate and the resources are constrained?
Thank you, Natasha, and good morning to the audience. I think the leadership challenge that we face today is very much a challenge that we face every day. It's a challenge that we face every day. It's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's a challenge that we face every day. And it's I want to start by answering this question by asking the audience members a question, and I won't be able to see their hands unfortunately, but my question to you would be, who of you sitting here knows someone with metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, unhealthy cholesterol profile? Oh, I'm already seeing hands going up, so many on the online, and I'm sure there's many of you in the audience as well. So when it comes to a small organization, we think about our purpose. Why is it that we do what we do? Almost every single one of us sitting here today knows someone or has been touched by metabolic disease, which is seen as a chronic disease. And what we do as an organization, we create awareness around this and create hope around this. And the ultimate focus is to create clarity and purpose around the work that we do. Often in small organizations, Natasha, we don't have the luxury of having a marketing department or a sales department or even a big HR department. We're a small team and we really have to focus on getting the job done. When I reflected on your question, it felt very much like I was back in the PG Div class last year, because I had to really think about what is the right answer to this question and then reflect on how I, as a leader, are actually practicing these things. And the second point is, don't aim for perfection. Something I'm personally really bad at, but sometimes you really need just to make a move and start moving forward. Do what needs to be done. Smaller organizations or even the community organizations, there's not a corporate playbook for us to work by or a large budget to fall back on. And we really have to focus on making the decisions in the moment that we know will help move us forward. Then coming to my third point, and this is really the focus on relationships. And when I say relationships, it's often in the places you least expect it. We might think relationship is just a formal corporate relationship, but we need to tap into those around us, our own personal support systems. Who do I know? Who can I reach out? And who do the next person reach out? And how can we then all work together with those relationships that we have built and work towards coming back to ultimately our purpose? And then fourthly, adaptability. And we've spoken a lot about this during our training last year, and I really appreciated that because it hits so close to home. In small organizations, and I think often specifically in non-profit organizations like ourselves, things change very quickly. We might think we're heading towards a very specific destination or something's going to happen in a certain way. However, because we do not always have the resources, we have to adapt and change. And that goes for our circumstances as well as us as individuals and as leaders. You know, when you start a job, you get a job description, and often when people join our organization, and I've spoken to many other similar organizations, it comes with a caveat saying, you know, that might be your job description, but understand you have to be adaptable. You have to be willing to do the hard work. If that means you have to go as the leader of the organization, you're going to go stand at a stand to promote an event or your cause or ask for donations, that is what you have to do. If it means you have to run around picking something up, that is what you have to do. You have to be adaptable. So leadership is not only about strategy, but it's also about solving immediate problems and stretching your resources as a team and your personal resources as a person to keep people moving towards your purpose. And then last but not least, ethical choices. I know you spoke about that with Skulk, and I think he summarized it so brilliantly in terms of how do you make your decisions, especially when there is urgency around it or when there's budgetary constraints or financial impact. And you have to keep accountable. And are the decisions I'm making the right one, first and foremostly for the community and the people I serve and for my team? And then often lastly, we as leaders start to think about ourselves. Where do we come into the picture? So for me, it's really less about having all of the answers as a leader when it comes to having less resources, and more about keeping your mission clear, as in our case, focus on improving the health outcomes of all South Africans. And we all do that as a team, no matter what, to get us there and to help people believe that progress is possible and we keep on moving forward together towards our mission.
Wow. So one thing I didn't hear was balance scorecards, financial models, strategic planning, but I did hear a lot about creativity, the art of leading from behind, following me, I'm behind you. I heard about outcome and output and impact, and I'm hearing about improvisation. We have some time. Do we have one or two questions from the audience, the online audience? Sorry, we're going to have to do this for the online people.
Hi everybody, and thank you so much to everybody that's been presenting. It's been absolutely a breath of fresh air, and it's more a statement than a question. To just say that what I'm hearing in the room is not mainstream. And it's the idea that people are thinking out of the box, going against the status quo, and just to say that's been absolutely refreshing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That warms my heart. Any other comments, questions?
Thank you, Natasha, and everyone here. What has struck me most about today is the deeply human side of leadership and how important it is to go within, to create that relationship with yourself that emanates out, and I've heard a lot of listening as well. So I know Natasha said you don't teach AI's around, but here we are as humans first, and our relationship with ourselves and each other, and what we need to do as leaders in terms of listening within and outwardly is so important for the future that we're all trying to co-create. So thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. I want to direct first to Skalk, and then the two of you can also contribute. I remember last year, I think it was in the first class, I asked Skalk, what are you doing here? You're a musician. Why are you doing a course in leadership? And he gave me the story that you also presented today. My question that I would like to put to the panel is, we tend to look, when we think about leadership, we tend to look at politicians, we tend to look at CEOs, executives. How do we get all of us sitting here and people like us out there to understand that we should take our leadership responsibility, as you put?
If I can, from my point of view, is to make that realization that leadership is a responsibility. Like, and I've already said that. I think, was it Margaret Thatcher said, power is a bit like being a lady. If you tell people you have it, you're probably not, you know. And I think it's becoming one with the actual responsibility of that, and it's not about wanting to be seen as a leader. Often for me, if I think of politicians, sorry, no one specifically, but very often it's, and then you just look around the world, the kind of people who want to be in those roles are often the last people that should be there, you know. And I always think, why don't we have all these great, eloquent, I mean, there are 8 billion people in the world. Is that the best? That can't be the best. I mean, it's a reflection on us not taking leadership responsibility in our own hands. And I think, you were talking about the school systems. I think it's something that's lacking in schools, teaching people how to be leaders and not in power positions. That leadership is not a role. It's not a boss, a manager. It can be, you know, the cleaning staff, there's a great guy at our school, my daughter's school, we call him Uncle Brian. He knows every kid's name. He's the guy that welcomes the kids, makes sure he's sort of security. He's always got a bag of lollipops. Everybody loves that guy. He puts a smile on every child's face. He's the most important guy in that school. You know, he's a leader because he creates a culture of openness, of friendliness. The kids, and respect. Everybody respects him, and he respects every child. He knows every child's name, and that to me is a leader. That's the kind of thing we need to teach in people, that's the respect in society, and if we can get that to become contagious, I think we're going to be in a better position.
Jana?
I think I just want to echo what Scott was saying. I think ultimately everyone is a leader. It comes down to what type of leader you are. And I remember Dr. Natasha last year, I think one of the first things you asked us was, do we think we are born leaders or do we create leaders? And how does one become a leader? And I think that, generally we tend to think about leadership versus management and the difference between them two. But I think ultimately I've come to learn that everyone is a leader. It is your choice what type of leader you are, and whether you are a leader that follows from the back or whether you are a leader that tries to live by example. That is ultimately your choice. And yet, not everyone understands that, and I think that is where specifically the PG Open Leadership Development came in, and it was so important for all of us who completed the course last year. It was ultimately understanding what type of leader you wanted to be. And then I just briefly wanted to touch on, Natasha, you mentioned the scorecards and all of those things. And I think sometimes as leaders, especially in bigger organizations, less so in smaller ones where we don't have the time, we can get caught up in those things. And although those things are so important, and I have learned an incredible amount of new tools and skills that I can use, you as a leader have to decide, how do I make use of all the knowledge and everything that I know to become the leader I want to be for the future.
Thanks, Jana. We're going to take one more question.
Thank you. It's not necessarily a question. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jacques. I'm the principal at Hendrik Low Primary School in Strand. It's a privilege for us to be here, and it's a privilege to have my little ones here as well. One thing that was mentioned about education is my business, though. We desperately need the business community to put pressure on government to change the curriculum. Leadership is not a subject. Leadership is only touched on here and there. Usually you have your head boys and head girls who are just head boys and head girls, and they wear a badge, and that is it. That's why we invest in the leadership development. But we can only develop so much if it's not a subject in school. Not necessarily that it has to be a subject, but we need to change the curriculum. I mean, we work with Bloom's taxonomy. That is the main taxonomy regarding school. It was created in the 1950s. We don't look at Kendall and Mazzano's taxonomies, which are much more relevant today. So we really need the business community to start putting pressure on government to make a major change in the curriculum that we teach the children. If you want successful business owners one day, we have to make that change. Because at this stage we are creating young people who are ready to work in the year 2000, not 2030, 2040, 2050. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so. I'm going to take one more question, one last.
Yeah, it's not going to be a question, it's just a statement again. I've been hearing it in my ear. My wife sitting on the right-hand side has been telling me for years, we've got to stop abdicating our responsibility. And I'm going to say that's to politicians, to organizations, to universities. We have to take it back. Thank you.
I think that is a perfect note to bring it all together. I'm first going to ask Samantha to just thank our amazing panel. Jana, your gift will wait for you when you're not contagious.
Thank you. I just want to thank Scott for allowing us to use his learning logs this morning and for gracing us with your presence and that you entertained us a bit with your musical talent.
What a pleasure, thank you.
Thank you.
I had alumni from 2023, he reached out to me on social media, his name's Mitchell Parker, and he said, I see that you're going to talk, I'd love to meet you, we should hook up for coffee next week. I said, that'd be great. He said, even if it's just to talk about how awesome Sam is.
Thank you. Thanks. And another thing, thank you to you for coming to share from your perspective, from the city's perspective. The insights are valuable, and I'm sure we all learned a lot this morning. And just thank you. Thank you. And then, Rihanna, I know that you are sick, that you're contagious, but you still took the time to be here this morning. So thank you to you. I'm keeping your gift, so when you come and visit me, I'll share it.
Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate it. I promise I'll only come after the contagious period. Thanks everyone. It was lovely being here.
In closing, I want to echo that, but I want to thank our audience. See, now I'm standing. I'm so used to standing. I want to thank the audience online, especially, and I want to thank everybody in the room. I think the conversation was not just about developing leaders at the Stellenbosch Business School, but about a responsibility all of us takes for what type of world are we creating. Don't be scared of AI. I'm 52, I've mastered AI. Don't be scared of AI, don't be scared of global climate change, don't be scared of geopolitics. These are not new things. They just have a different shape. What is really important is the thing we mentioned. How do we hold our humanity? And I'm also very proud. So before I get there, I want to thank Samantha, my partner in crime. I want to thank our leadership team. I want to thank Prof. Mias, who I took over from, but he laid the foundation and we built this and we keep building it. I want to thank Hajira and the team. This is amazing. It's perfect. It set the stage. It makes the sofa, our VIP people are sitting on the soft chairs. Thank you for creating the ambience. I came to you and I said, this is my vision. And yeah, the team, the food, the catering, the business school, our colleagues that are here, thank you so much. And I want to use this moment to share with all of you. So this program, the Postgraduate Diploma in Leadership Development, is nominated and is a finalist for the Academy of Management. Is like the Rolls-Royce. It's like the General Electric of management education. And we are a finalist in the Evidence-Based Leadership Development Awards. And I'll go to Philadelphia in July to present what we do and how we do it. But I wanted to take this moment with all of you. And I actually want anyone that is kind of a little bit involved in PGDL, so we have some faculty here, we have past faculty, current faculty. We have our ambassador, and by the way, Mitch was the 2023 top student. We have our ambassador of the program and the 2024 top student with us as well. So I want all of you to come and join me, to just come and join me on stage as we celebrate the PGDL. Is that everyone? Past students? Is this everyone? Yes, there we go. And as we're celebrating, pretty much what you've experienced today is how we teach. So we always start with a mindful moment. We ground into presence because the world is filled with noise and we always have to be present. We have conversations as opposed to lectures. Our lecturers are not just academics, they are also practitioners in the real world. And we often have guest speakers, of which I think we're going to invite a few additional people. and our students become family and they become ambassadors. And we don't actually market this program because it's very difficult to package this and sell it. So we hope you go out there and feel part of the magic of how we do leadership development. Thank you for coming, and please join us in the foyer for some snacks and to network.